But just like you had to study the bones and where each bone was, you're going to have to study the muscles and where each muscle is. So if you look on page 429 in your textbook, there's a picture of the muscles. These are a little harder to distinguish from each other because they're all pink, okay? So you have to look at this and you have to see that they're separated and some look like singular muscles. So you're just gonna have to kind of look where the line is pointing and see that big muscle. So if you look at like the pectoralis muscles, you can see that they're kind of square and then they go off into the biceps. So just when you're looking at it, try to distinguish where they're going off so that when you take a quiz and if it's labeled, you know where each muscle is located. Yes?
Wouldn't it be bad if all of your skin, like this part of your skin is gone?
Oh yeah, it would be bad. Your skin protects you. So if you didn't have your skin, you'd probably have a lot more deep tissue damage, like to your nerves that's in your dermis and all that, right? Would you freeze? Probably, because your body does temperature regulation through your integument, right? So you probably would be more susceptible to really hot and really cold temperatures damaging you because you wouldn't be protected and you couldn't regulate using the sweat in your pores. So good observations. So they definitely use like really dramatic muscles so that you can see it more easily. Maybe a bodybuilder, you're right. Okay, so we're going to move into the muscular system and I'm going to point out the different things you need to know. Remember, when you're looking at that picture, is that anatomy or physiology? Anatomy. It's where is everything. Then we're going to talk about physiology, and that's going to say, like, how do these things function? Make sense? Okay. So we're going to be starting on page 428 if you want to follow along for your note purposes. So we're going to talk about your types of muscles, your physiology. So you have two different kinds of muscles, but you have 600 total muscles that help to move your various parts of your body. So your muscular system, the function is going to be movement, okay? Helps to move your skeletal system, helps to move other muscles, and you have 600 of these. So you're going to have two types of muscles. Ones that you can control conscientiously, and ones that you cannot. The ones that you can control are going to be your voluntary muscles. So when you think about voluntary muscles, I want you to think of all the ones in your arms and legs, right? Because if I think I want to walk forward, then I'm walking forward, right? That's me telling my legs what to do. Now, then you're going to have another type of muscle. You're going to have another type of muscle, it's probably on the next slide, called involuntary muscles. Involuntary muscles you cannot control, and it's a good thing. So your lungs, you know, are a muscle, right? So your lungs, you can conscientiously breathe in and out, but you don't have to think to yourself, breathe, breathe, right? It does it on its own. If we had to think about it conscientiously and make our lungs breathe for us, what would happen when we were asleep?
You would die.
Yeah, you would die because when you're asleep, you're not conscientiously doing things. And you might unconsciously move in your sleep and roll in your sleep, but that's still, your brain is still telling your body to do that. Because usually when you roll, it's maybe because you're uncomfortable in that position or restless. So your body is kind of still consciously doing that. But then think about digesting your food. Your digestion happens because of your stomach muscles. Imagine if we also had to like sit there and be like, digest, digest. Like for hours and otherwise our food wouldn't digest and give the nutrients. That would just be annoying to think about all the things. And your heart is a muscle as well. We don't want to have to think, pump, 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 right? We just want it to do its job. So all of those things that I talked about, all those muscles that do the things for your body without you having to tell them, are involuntary muscles. Any muscles that you can conscientiously move, like I can sit here and move my leg any which way that I decide I want to move it, right? I'm consciously thinking of doing that. So that would be a voluntary muscle. So any muscle that works with your skeletal system and moves your skeletal system is going to be a voluntary muscle, something that you're voluntarily moving. And you're going to have these things. So if you took a piece of muscle, and we're going to do this on Monday, we're going to take a piece of muscle and we're going to look at it under a microscope. I'm not going to dissect you. I'm not going to take a piece of your muscle. But I have slides. Just like the skin, how I have a slide, I have a slide of bone and a slide of muscle that we're going to look at. If you look at page 428, you can see in this muscle right here that it kind of looks very organized, right, with little lines. This is called striations. This is when you have different layers of protein molecules in your muscles and they meet together in an organized fashion. We call that striations. Why this is important is because we have this thing called histology. Histology is when you study different tissues, okay, and you see how they're working. And by studying tissues, you can detect abnormalities in the tissues, and you could even find some diseases within the tissue. So this striation is like if I were to, for instance, say Noel is wearing a blue shirt, he has camo pants, he has dark skin and dark hair, and then I told a stranger to go find him. I use descriptive words. I use descriptive words, not in a weird way. I'm just trying to explain a concept. But I use descriptive words so that they could find him easily, right? So we have different words to describe tissues so that if I'm studying these tissues, I can remember what it looks like so that if someone says, I need you to study this muscular tissue, and I want to know if it's skeletal muscle, well, skeletal muscle has striations, so that would help me determine what it was. Yes?
I have two questions.
Yes.
How many types of tissues are there?
There's a lot of different types of tissue. Pretty much anything that's in your body has some type of tissue, and you can look at it. So your liver has a certain kind of tissue. Your stomach, because remember, tissues are just a bunch of cells working together to do one job, right? So your skin is one type of tissue, but then you have your epidermis, your dermis, and your subcutaneous. So that's different kinds of tissue because they have different types of jobs. So we have skeletal tissue, and all skeletal tissue is going to look the same. And then we have muscular tissue, and we have different kinds of muscles. We have your skeletal muscles, you have your cardiac muscles, you have your smooth muscles. But each kind of muscle does a different job. Your skeletal muscle helps move your bones. Your cardiac muscle has to be really strong, right? Because it's pumping all that blood. And when the blood comes through, you don't want the pressure from the blood eating away and making the tissue wear down, right? So then you have your cardiac muscle, but then you have your smooth muscle. And your smooth muscles in your organs. And your organs have to have a certain kind of muscle because you, like with your digestive tract, you have stuff sliding down it. And each tissue does a different job and has a different kind of type of thickness and looks a little different based on what its job is and what it has to do.
And then my second question is, what about that? It's like, there's this like stuff, like, does it like when you like inject it into you, and it like makes like Like those, some people like do it
Like
to-
steroids?
to make their muscles like.
Oh yeah,
It's called
steroids.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like, is it effective? Like,
So let me think of how to explain it. I know about steroids and I know what they are, but to explain exactly why they inject them is a little harder.
does
But-
it affect the muscle?
Kind of. It helps stimulate your growth hormones, and it helps to stimulate, like give you a lot of energy. So then when you're at the gym, your muscles are not going to get tired as fast, and so you're going to be able to do a bigger workout. And it has the growth hormone that allows your muscles to grow bigger than they would have without it. So it's like affects your body's hormones that are already there and makes them better, almost. But if you do them for too long, it could also have like the opposite effect and make you sick as well. Like you don't want to be on steroids for a long period of time.
Doesn't it mess up your mental health if you take it?
Yeah, it could, because it's what we call a stimulant, and it makes everything work a little faster. So like if you take a steroid before bed, you would have a hard time falling asleep because it gives you like a boost. But if you are sick and when you're sick, you want to have that little boost because you want your immune system, because when you're sick, your immune system is kind of fighting, so it makes you feel a little bit poorly. You might get a fever, you might just feel not yourself. And so when you're sick, sometimes they give you a steroid to help you feel a little better so that your immune system isn't working so hard to keep you from feeling like you cannot stay awake and also fight the disease at the same time. So people who have cancer, who are immunosuppressed, and they take their immune system down so that they can fight the cancer, they would maybe be given a steroid to keep them from like shutting down completely. Not dying, but being able to have the energy for their body to fight it. Because steroids kind of give you that energy. But if you're healthy and take them, and you maybe like are an athlete and take them, you take a certain kind of steroid that has a growth hormone to pump your muscles up. And that's why if you see someone who's like really huge and it doesn't look natural, sometimes they're like, oh, it's because they took steroids, because naturally you don't have that much growth hormone in your muscles to make them look that way. So that's why you can kind of tell when people are on steroids. But people can have really large muscles because of genetics as well, and because they've worked out for so long. But then some people, if they get them very large and very fast, it's because of steroids. Yes.
How does like working out even make you how does it even work?
How does it work? Like with your muscles? So, that is a really good question. So, how does it make it work out? I don't know, because I feel like you always think of it the opposite way. You always think about like the reason you work out is to make your muscles stronger, and your muscles become bigger because they are a muscle. But why do they do that? I think I'm going to come back to you on that question because I didn't like to explain it the best of my ability, and I haven't studied it in a really long time. So like probably sophomore year of college. So let me get my college anatomy book and read about it again so that I don't give you any, I want to give you the whole picture and not just what I know, but I'm going to give you more, okay? So on Monday, I'm going to write it down, and on Monday, can you ask me that question again? Okay, thank you.
So having like lots of muscle wouldn't like break your bone. Like let's say like I don't know.
Having a lot of muscle, wouldn't it break your bones?
I don't know, like is there a way like can't you like type
He's
in
saying
muscle?
like if you have so much muscle at the point that it's heavy, can it break something?
No, not necessarily, because your skeletal and your muscular system are pretty much they work together, okay? Because where your bone can't move without the muscle attached to it. Now, you are more likely to break a muscle than you are to break a bone with working out. So my husband has a uncle, and he actually was lifting something, and his muscle maybe was really tight or weak, and he snapped his biceps muscle in half. And you know, if you like flex your muscle like this, how you see that it's rounded a little bit, that biceps brachii muscle is rounded. Well, if it snaps, you kind of have like a dent right in the middle, and you have a little bit down here and a little bit up here. Let me see if I can find you a picture on Google about biceps brachii. But remember that your muscles are a tissue, right? So if your tissue becomes weakened, then it is more likely to snap. But if you get strong muscles, it doesn't mean that you're gonna break your bone. Because if you're so healthy to have large muscles, you probably also have very healthy bones as well. Okay, let me show you.
Oh my gosh.
So wait, who's going up today?
So wait, you have art, right?
Art.
Nobody's going on art with you, right?
Oh my gosh. That's so
So tell Miss Method to come up with us because we have nobody. We have 6th grade.
Yo, you guys have
No,
you
you
guys
guys
have
have
no
easy
easy
class
class except for
grade.
kickball.
Is Madison here?
I think so.
No, I don't see. I don't know.
Is Isabella?
Yeah.
Alright, then they're our class too. No, well, like most of the 6th grade.
You got Ethan
Yeah,
and
most
Gustavo.
of the no, Gustavo's not here.
Okay.
And
So if you look right here in the
Oh!
corner, do you see how the muscle is kind of dented right here? And it's kind of this bulge? That's because it snapped and the muscle moved down here, the part of the muscle, and it's just right there.
look at that other one. Ew.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And you're looking in person too.
What if you touch it?
What?
What if you touch it?
If you touch it, it's slowed. No, it's just kind of like if you were to like break a rubber band or something in half, like it just becomes shorter. It's not that it's the same amount of stuff. Can you fix? I think they have to like surgically put like sew the muscle back together because your tissue will grow more together, but I think that it's a surgical procedure in order to fix it. Yes, no.
What, you know how the muscle, like, when it's dented or whatever, it's like built different? How do you, like, can you, like, is there, I know you say it's muscle, but is there something in the muscle that you can, like, suck out to make your arm flat again?
You don't want to take your muscle out.
Take your muscle out.
Because if you took your muscle out, then yeah, you wouldn't be able to move your arm. So you wouldn't want to take your muscle out. Because this motion, okay, you don't have to be very strong for it, but say I put my arm down, okay, that's because of my triceps muscles. If I bring my arm up, that's because of my biceps muscle. And I understand because girls want to have like tiny arms, but it's okay. Your muscles are God's creation for your body, and He wants you to be able to move effectively. So
My arms are.
don't hate your
Are you
muscles.
just trying to say this in the nicest way possible?
What?
Elliot's
Girls
arms
are
weak. Elliot's muscles.
Girls aren't weak.
big, I'm not even lying.
Girls aren't weak.
I saw.
toxic.
See,
Okay,
Camille said it.
I have like
Tell
no
me.
upper body strength.
Is it true?
At all. My
Is
arms
it
are
very
so
true?
weak. They're like spaghetti. I swear.
Camille keeps saying that
I can barely lift
I keep
anything.
telling everybody I have.
I was lifting
like,
in my
arms,
binder.
like,
I could barely lift
that
it.
way.
But what determines if you have, quote, boyish muscles or girlish muscles? They're just, everybody is unique. Remember, because we talked about genetics.
We're all like.
So everybody's arms and how they look is based off of genetics. And if you go to the gym, if you work out and you do different things, then that enhances what God has already put in your genetics. So nobody has boy arms, okay? No, there's no such thing as boy arms or girl arms. They are your arms. And they're the ones God wanted you to have, so don't complain about them.
Written by Miss Naomi.
Yes.
Why
JP.
do you get sore?
Why do you get sore?
Oh my god.
That's
I'm sore right now. I'm sorry.
That's because like when you're doing a lot of activity, remember where your muscles are doing cellular respiration, right? Where you're getting oxygen in, and then the sugar in your muscles in your oxygen is turning that into ATP, giving you energy to do the work out. And then as you do that workout, you're gonna have less oxygen and you're gonna have less glucose. So then if you go a little bit further and you start losing that oxygen because you're working out and you're getting like heavy breathing and you're not getting as much oxygen in, well then your muscles are gonna start doing fermentation, remember? And then you're gonna start having that lactic acid instead. So then if you overwork, that might be either from a few things. You produce the lactic acid into your muscles and now they're giving you a signal that you need to start breathing better now to produce oxygen again. Or you might have overworked your muscles and maybe had like tiny little tears in your muscle. Not like, don't get scared about it. It's not like huge tears, but say if you looked at a hair, okay? We're gonna look at hair. Remember, your muscles are like fibers. So pretend that these are a bunch of little muscle fibers all put together and this is maybe your biceps, okay? It's kind of the same idea. So each hair would be a muscle striation and then you have your muscle. So if you're working out over and over and over, now if I were to do this to my hair, because of the stress on my hair, I might, from the movement, have one hair like snap. But it's not like a big deal because it's gonna repair itself.
Oh, okay.
And that's like the same idea. So if you have like tiny little stressors in your muscles from working out, because like if you work out and you lift heavier than you usually do, your muscle is going to rebuild. But remember, what your body always does is it rebuilds to protect things from happening again. So each time you work out, you're going to get a little bit stronger and you're less likely to have that happen.
There's this really weird thing I can do with my fingers.
It's called double jointed.
It's not double jointed. It's like the things people that are double jointed.
No, you don't do it like him.
His finger's shaped.
Just show.
I just need advice on how.
Wait, can you
how it's
guys do
happening.
this thing
What is
with
it?
your fingers?
It might be a bit nasty, so we don't know.
It feels so weird.
This finger?
Camille.
So is it just that you can move it really fast back and forth?
No.
It's so
I'm not
weird.
gonna get it out.
This is a little
Oh, it
weird.
just does it like that?
Real different.
I don't know. I guess you have to go to orthopedic for that.
I like this.
Oh.
Feel this.
I think this is real nice.
Yeah,
Maybe
I
with
know.
Going back to be like,
Feel the pinky. It feels weird.
So
yeah,
when
that's
I was
double
gonna come back
jointed in
to-
this joint right here. That's pretty
a
cool.
full moon of color.
Wow.
It's one time.
That's what I'm saying.
This little.
I feel that.
But like, it's like kind of.
Bro, her name is
Sounds
Sophia.
weird.
I love that.
Hi, Josh.
You do it on
It's pretty cool.
Okay,
Okay.
Miss
Well,
Wow.
if you guys want, I think we have talked now for 25 minutes. Do you guys ready for your history test? Okay.
No.
Alright, let's sit down.